We're pleased to be joined again by Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, the president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, co-founder of the Muslim Reform Movement, former U.S. Navy lieutenant commander, and, if that wasn't enough, Republican candidate for Congress in Arizona in District 4. That's the district that Stanton, right, the former mayor of Phoenix, I think a Democrat is the incumbent. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's great to be with you, Dan. Thank you for having me back.
Is that your district, the Stanton, the former Phoenix mayor?
Yes, it is. The Missing in Action Stanton, who just recently voted to allow no change at the border. The same Stanton that was missing when Rashida Tlaib came to raise money for a terrorist organization, the Students for Justice in Palestine. So I think the people are ready for a significant change and real leadership in our district.
And is Arizona State in that district?
Yes, ASU is in our district in Tempe, and they receive funds for a lot of the work they do from the taxpayers, and the taxpayers have a right to make sure that their kids, their universities, their professors are not condoning anti-Semitism, condoning support of Hamas and providing material support of Hamas. And it's a very simple thing, and yet, as you have been outlining, it is an upside-down world where we seem to be truly targeting the victims, the Jewish community, who has been the primary victims of bigotry and hate, and yet somehow when they defend themselves, the only democracy in the Middle East, they become the enemy, which is just absurd.
Yeah, this seems to me like so easy, but it's stunningly difficult. I mean, you're a medical doctor, so you've had your share of schooling. The culture on campuses at what are reputedly, some of the best institutions of higher learning in the Western world, that's maybe in question, but I don't know. Maybe they're like America, sort of the tallest skyscraper in Wichita at the moment. But I mean, what Harvard is doing, what Northwestern is doing, it's almost. You cannot be that dense. It almost has to be purposely offensive. It almost has to be like, you think you can bring us to heel? You're not even close. I just can't otherwise explain what I just described with these, task force that are supposed to, try to paper over or provide some, healing process on campus and so forth.
When I testified to Congress multiple times in 2011, 2012 about the rot in the system that used the term Islamophobia, and that there was this alliance with regimes like Qatar and Iran and others that created this term to suppress free speech, and I said, in the universities, these radical Islamists are working with the far left, the progressivists, who are labeling Muslims as the victims, but Islam is an idea. We have a right to debate whether Islam is a theocratic, oppressive movement, or if it's a faith that's a personal faith that many of us love, that want to defend, but yet there's a civil war happening. And now fast forward, peri-pandemic and post-pandemic, every front people are realizing that the wokeists, the progressivists, turned everything upside down, made America into the problem rather than the solution. And they exploited that. We see this in our medical schools. And I can tell you, as a physician, I've seen national medical meetings open with the apologetic that this meeting is on stolen ground and all the DEI nonsense. Right. Our military academies, as a former military officer, I'm on the board of an organization called STARS that's looking at reform within our naval and Air Force academies at bizarre language limitations, bizarre inabilities of our future military officers to have debates about and discussions about what terrorism is and what Islamism is and who our enemies are and what America stands for. On every front, America is under siege, and it's not a coincidence that the border is also out of control, because they're trying to destroy us in every way possible, and the rot starts from the top as far as the universities and what we're teaching our next generation. And as Reagan said, we're one generation from losing it, this country, and losing our freedoms, and we can't step aside and say, oh, it'll work next election cycle. It'll work in a few years and work its way out. The time is now to fix this, and we have to realize that that rot needs to be corrected immediately.
Well, what should Biden do at the border? Policy changes.
Well, it could start with, even H.R. 2, which was about stopping the nonsense as far as asylum and re-upping the reality of what our laws say on the books. Just enforce the laws on the books. Have the Border Patrol do what they are assigned to do, which is to prevent folks from coming in needlessly and hemorrhaging in without any limitations. Just enforce the laws on the books. And why we continue to pass continuing resolution after continuing resolution funding wars abroad and not our own country is just besides me. And I don't see why the Republicans are labeled as obstructionists and somehow we don't want to support other conflict while our own military is being attacked by Iran and other interests, and yet we want to seal our border first. So the laws are on the books. And the Democrats need to be held accountable for the fact that they're allowing an invasion constantly at levels unseen before. And I don't think the Republican Party should stand anymore for letting this happen.
The words I read at the outset, those moving words from that sergeant first class who was killed in action defending his home on behalf of others, talking about the need for people, Arabic people and Jewish people to work together for peace in that region. I don't want to be Pollyannish about this, but is it underappreciated in the West the amount of collaboration there is between Jewish people and Arabic people when it comes to trying to repel and eradicate terrorist organizations like Hamas?
You are so right, Dan. I can't tell you. I've been to Israel twice, and both times, people don't realize there's 1 million Israeli Arabs that live among the 6-7 million Jews in Israel. I've talked to judges in their Sharia. They have a Sharia court system it's a Muslim court system for marriage and family law that is part of the Israeli legal system, along with the Jewish and Christian courts that are there. There's a Christian Arab on their Supreme Court. They have members of the Knesset that are Muslim, some of whom are actually pretty radical, actually, that don't toe the line of regular democracy, but yet they accept that as part of their democracy, that even Hamas supporters can be part of their Knesset, of their democracy. So, listen, people don't understand the reality of what Israel is and how much not only of an ally, but what they represent for the future. There's a book called The Startup Nation about all the small startups that exist in Israel, and most of them include Palestinian, Arabic, Jewish, Israeli citizens working together for a future. And, this is the reality, and why I think the greatest bigots in the room across the country in universities and what we were talking about with DEI are the left, because they want to divide us into identity groups, and most of us want to be colorblind, want to be religion blind, and more about freedom and equality, real equality. And that's why I think there will be a red wave in November if people start to realize that we are the party of equality, meritocracy, free markets, free thinking, and not the quality of identity, not the party of identity politics.
Before we let you go, I have to ask you about that Kerry Lake, Jeff DeWitt tape that was made public yesterday by the Daily Mail. There have been calls for the state party chairman, Republican Party chairman in Arizona, to resign over the apparent attempt to bribe Kerry Lake out of the race for Senate. What's your reaction?
I have to tell you, man, I'm worried about my own race, but at the end of the day, if that turns out to be true, this is why many of us are running, and why people say, why aren't good people in politics? And God bless Kerry Lake for responding to him the way she did. She said, listen, you can't buy me for $1 billion, and these are the kind of candidates we need in office. And if the head of a state party, listen, he was a Trump appointee and continued.
Yeah.
This is not about anti-Trump or pro-Trump. It's about the future of American democracy, and that we can't let, as he said, if that's him, out east, people want different things. This is, if we really want to reform elections and have true voice of the people, this demonstrates that this is the type of finagling going on that needs to stop right now. We need to expose it.
So DeWitt resign?
I'll let him decide that. I'm still running my first race ever in state here,
Gotcha.
so I'll let him decide that.
Has he been supportive of you?
I've not talked to him yet about my race, but he's not weighed in on our congressional race.
Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, he is a candidate for Congress in Arizona 4. He would double the average IQ of Congress if he were elected by himself. Z4AZ.com is the website, Z4AZ.com. This is a guy we want in a policy leadership position. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, President, American Islamic Forum for Democracy, co-founder of the Muslim Reform Movement, former Navy Lieutenant Commander and candidate for Congress. Dr. Jasser, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Amy, appreciate it.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.